The BBC is in big trouble. If you watch the BBC cover January 6th, this is what you heard Trump saying.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Now I'm going to show you a clip of how it actually went down.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And guess what? The BBC just got caught red-handed. Now they've had multiple executives resign. Trump is threatening to sue them for $1 billion, billion with a B. And more important than all of that, they've been exposed to the public. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. You know, sometimes I go online and I rant a little bit and I say you don't distrust the media enough. This is one of those times. This is one of those stories. We all remember January 6th. In fact, we're not allowed to forget it. We have to constantly talk about January 6th, especially if you're a supporter of Make America Great Again or Make America Healthy Again, or if you voted for Donald Trump like what 50% of this country did. And on January 6th, we got some interesting coverage from all of our news media. But today we're going to focus on the BBC, because the BBC decided to do a little bit of a choppy edit of Donald Trump in order to insinuate a certain message that he was not sharing on that day, and they've just been caught due to an internal investigation. I'm going to go over to the Telegraph to explain this whole situation so we get it laid out.
The BBC claims to be the pinnacle of impartial reporting, but what if there was an internal dossier that revealed that wasn't the case? The Telegraph has seen a letter that reveals one of the BBC's own independent advisors repeatedly warned that the broadcaster had serious and systemic problems. A week before the US election, BBC Panorama released a documentary called Trump: A Second Chance, and in it, they played the following clip.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell.
The amount of arguing that has taken place over what was said on January 6th, what happened on January 6th, has been so extensive that this is just like giving me PTSD at this point. Like the amount of times I've had to go back and forth with somebody over, he didn't say it like that, or he said it like this. He never said that he wanted people to be violent. No, he told them to be peaceful. He told them to cheer on the first responders and the senators and everything like that. And we just go back and forth and back and forth. I see some media outlets that are reporting that like 5 people died on January 6th, and we know that that's not true. So you're going back and forth about that. People are arguing over whether or not it's an insurrection, whether or not they wanted to overthrow the government. It was tiring. It is tiring. And now to have it all brought back again. How many months later? Like how much time has passed that now we're getting this internal investigation of the BBC? It's a little too late, but let's keep watching.
But Trump didn't in fact say this at all. The BBC spliced together 2 clips that took place 54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
Dude, this is what you see like villains in children's movies do.
In case you haven't noticed, you've fallen right into my trap.
Like where they put the audio together and just make it seem like somebody said something that they didn't. And the BBC is doing this. Mind you, they are funded by the people. So apparently people in the UK pay like a couple $100s or $170, something like that, as a licensing fee to be able to use BBC services in the country. So you are handing them your money to watch stuff that comes out of the BBC and to just be involved with the things that they're creating and what they're producing. And they lie straight to your face. They are funded by the people for the people. And this is what they do. And let's be honest, this is election interference. They're quite literally lying to you in order to influence your vote. And of course, you're going to say BBC is for people in the UK. Hey, there's people in the US here that enjoy the BBC as well. And they're watching this stuff and they are voters. And even outside of the election and the implications of that, think about just how much the media, first of all, doesn't trust you and how much you shouldn't trust them. They don't think you're capable of making decisions based on hearing actual facts, hearing the objective occurrence of January 6th. And so they splice it together in order to force feed you a narrative. And it's the narrative that they want you to carry on out into the world. And this is supposed to be trusted media, mind you, trusted media. Let's keep watching.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and, that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Like, what are you supposed to do if you're Donald Trump? You gotta stop pausing in between your statements. He needs to talk in a run-on sentence at all times because these bitches are gonna cut you up for real. That is crazy. That's insane.
It's different. It wasn't until nearly an hour later that he then said the second part.
An
of the
hour
BBC's
later.
version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Dude, this is maniacal. I can't even get through like the time jump. You know how maniacal you have to be to sit through an hour of Donald Trump and be like, I think he said this thing an hour ago. I can splice together to what he's saying right now. You're crazy. You're crazy.
And we fight. We fight like hell.
Now, it's true that a lot of people will still feel Trump's claims that in 2021 the election was stolen were entirely inappropriate and unbecoming of a figure in politics. But irrespective of your personal views on Trump, the question remains, how is a national broadcaster funded by taxpayers on the premise that it will provide impartial reporting allowed to splice together content in a way that one of its own advisors said materially misled viewers? And we're not even done yet.
He's not even done yet. Really think about that question, because if you shenan once, you're going to shenan again, okay? And this is straight up tomfoolery from the BBC. I would never watch a BBC program again after this because they don't like you. They do not trust you. They're essentially saying, we think you're stupid and we want to force feed you a narrative, and we think we can do that by literally tricking you into believing something. It doesn't matter whether or not that thing is true. We don't think you're capable of coming to any conclusion on your own, and we want to make sure you come to the right conclusion. You're on the right side of history. And the right side of history is splicing together audio clips to misconstrue the message of the leader of the free world, soon to be.
Which panorama showed of the Proud Boys marching towards the Capitol building, seemingly spurred on by Trump's rousing speech. Well, that was actually taken before he'd even addressed the crowd. In fact, the BBC themselves later published a report at odds with Panorama's own timeline.
These are the Proud Boys, another right-wing militia, seen a little earlier that morning.
Howdy, your boy!
Donald Trump will not appear for another hour or so, but they're already heading towards the Capitol.
They even time-stamped the footage to show that the march began at 10:58 a.m.
And you see there, you played yourself.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
You played yourself. And I guess it's like these people are getting a little bit too big for their britches a bit. And I guess you can't have eyes on everything that's being created at the BBC. So if you get an activist here, an activist there, and let's be honest, it's more than just an activist here, an activist there. There's just like full-scale systemic problem, as is stated in the internal dossier, that this is going to happen. And people are going to take it upon themselves to shrike people with their supposedly trusted media.
Well before Trump's midday speech. The true chronology raises serious questions about the way in which the BBC decided to portray the events of January the 6th. In fact, the memo highlights that shortly after the first extract of Trump's speech, the now president actually said,
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
The BBC advisor who wrote this report claimed Panorama's editing was completely misleading, as Trump did not explicitly exhort supporters to go down and fight at Capitol Hill.
And let's add another thing to this. So not only are we talking about this idea of election interference, misleading the public, not trusting the public, you also had Donald Trump undergo what? You know, a whole back and forth investigation, criminal charges over insurrection, impeachment, all of these different things over what he said in these clips. So think about the importance of not only what the American people see, what people in Europe see and the UK see, when it comes to what he said on this day. The amount of times I've gone back and forth, and I'm sure you all have too, in talking about this, about peaceful and patriotically. He said peaceful and patriotically. He said patriotically peaceful, whatever, you know, the words may be, throwing that back and forth. And then you have a media outlet and somebody slamming in your face, well, look what the BBC said he said. Okay, well, I guess I'm just crazy. I guess I'm crazy. Like, that's gaslighting. That's gaslighting. We're getting You're supposed to get gaslit by your boyfriends and girlfriends, okay? Not by the BBC.
They even pointed out that this was a key reason why he didn't face federal charges for incitement to riot. The BBC's editorial guidelines and standards committee member who wrote this memo raised all of these concerns among others, with the BBC executive, but they were dismissed, ignored, and even accused of cherry-picking. But if members of its own editorial standards committee have no faith in the broadcaster, you have to ask, should we?
Yeah, not only should we have faith in this broadcaster, but should we be paying an annual licensing fee to utilize the products where they just lie to you the whole time? Probably not. Probably not. I'd have some issues with that. Now, going into this, there's, of course, an entire legal investigation, and Donald Trump has obviously called out the BBC. Now, they've made some, I guess, demands of the BBC. His lawyers are calling for 3 actions. 1, a retraction of the documentary. 2, an apology. And 3, compensation. Now, if they don't follow through with these actions, he's going to sue them for $1 billion, which is, it seems fitting for now that we're stacking up the implications of this and what this means on a broader scale. Something needs to be done here. Now, 2 executives at the BBC have actually resigned following this brilliant discovery. The Director General, Tim Davie, and the CEO of News, Deborah Turnus. Now, the BBC chair, Samir Shah, has also acknowledged that there has been an error in judgment. That's a nice way to say it. When it came to this edit. And I wonder who else judgment was involved with this, because you have to think this is a BBC documentary. It's being managed and worked on by a team and then, oversaw by supervisors and executives. There's a chain of command here. And it seems like multiple people have been involved in this, and far more than the 2 who we're now seeing resignations from. But that's just the way things go. Something like this comes out, and then they take somebody who's going to be the patsy and the fall guy for this entire situation, and you get 1 or 2 of them, and then they go ahead and resign. But this means so much more. And we need so much more than resignations and compensation. The BBC needs to actually come forward and talk about their process when it comes to news. And we need to demand journalistic integrity from these outlets, especially if you're paying money to use these services. Are you guys okay? No, we're not okay. They're literally lying to us every day. And we have these very similar problems here in the United States of America, with our mostly peaceful protests and, the different coverage of all the different political movements and moments that take place in this country. But this is certainly not acceptable. And guess what? They're, I guess, going to publish an apology letter in the coming week or next week. And it's going to be the letter that no one heard, ever. That's how this goes. So everybody watches this documentary that comes out about January 6th, and everybody gets to see that spliced together mistruth that you've put together for them. And who's going to hear the apology? If the tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it type thing. That's how this goes. That's what's going to happen here. So we need to scream from the rooftops that BBC is lying to y'all. Okay? So I'm here to do that today. I just thought you would like this little bit of news here. I find it fascinating. And if they're getting caught doing it, how many others have done exactly this? We need to continue to hold these people accountable. We need to continue to call them out. And we need to continue to call for journalistic integrity, especially when it's coming from outlets that are funded by the people and are meant to be for the people. Now, this is not the first time that the BBC has got on my nerves, okay? There's that time that they interviewed Elon Musk and they were just quite literally lying to his face, and he actually had to call them out and say, "You're lying. You lied." Which was fascinating.
Well, hang on a second. You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying,
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
And then there's the time they had Kemi Badenoch on the show. She's a UK politician. Now, she was working on the gang rape crisis that is currently taking place in the UK and has been for decades. And when they had her on the BBC, they asked her why she didn't watch the Adolescence show on Netflix, the fictitious show on Netflix, why she wasn't watching it. And shouldn't that be a part of her political work? Huh?
There are many ways for us to
Adolescence has made more of an impact than any politician has on parents and when it comes to the issue of smartphones and misogyny, and yet you are saying, despite that, you don't need to know about it.
Well, no, I haven't said that I don't need to know about the issue.
You don't need to watch it.
I don't need to watch a specific show to know what is going on in this country. It's a fictional show. Let's talk about what's real. I'm going out there every day. I have constituents coming to me, telling me what they're worried about. I had a colleague, an MP, who was murdered due to Islamic terrorism. You look at what's happened in Southport, you look at what's happening in Rotherham, in Oldham, there are real issues. I'm getting out there talking about it. Asking me to sit down and watch a television drama that lots of other people have seen, have written about, have told me about. I know what it's about. I think it is important, but it was also, it's also fiction. Let's talk about what's happening to real people. You had a mother of a woman who was killed. Let's talk about her. That's real life.
Well, guys, those are my thoughts on the BBC around and finding out. I think this needs to happen more often. Guys, drop your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you disagree with anything I said in this video, duke it out, but just respectfully. I encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Yeah, you better.